Silence by Shusaku Endo. This novel takes place in 17th century Japan. This is the story of two Portuguese Jesuit priests who have heard their old teacher and mentor, someone who meant a great deal to them, someone whose faith was so strong and devout that he went to Japan. At this time, Christianity was highly illegal and prohibited. Anyone who was caught practicing Catholicism would be tortured to find out if there were any other Christians. Then they would be put to death. If you are of another mind, you might say that they were martyred. But they have heard that their former mentor has committed apostasy. Now, this word is extremely important because you're going to see it quite often in this novel. So if you don't know what it means, apostasy is when someone renounces their faith. They are well aware that being Catholic in Japan is extraordinarily risky. To go there as a missionary and to try to spread the word, you are exceptionally risking your life. But the Jesuits feel that it is a part of their mission. At one point, earlier on, several decades earlier, some missionaries had some success in Japan. Christianity or Catholicism was growing quite well, and they were very pleased with the efforts of the missionaries and the church and the Japanese people. But then one of the Japanese lords decided that this religion was not compatible with the people of Japan, and it was going to be outlawed viciously. This has never stopped the Jesuits in the past. So these two priests, first and foremost, I believe they want to go to Japan to do what missionaries do, spread Christianity amongst the native people. As a secondary quest, they also hope to discover what happened to their old teacher, because they just cannot believe that he would ever choose apostasy rather than martyrdom. It is inconceivable to them that there is no torture known to man that would ever cause this man to relinquish his faith. Right in the beginning of the book, just the journey from Portugal down around Africa to India, trip from Goa to Japan, where they have to land at night, very clandestine in a boat, immediately hide and try to locate some Christians who might be able to help them. Amazing. Really, really amazing and thrilling. It's very exciting because you know these two priests are certainly risking their lives, if not worse. To be killed is one thing, but to be tortured for quite a long period of time is... They do arrive in Japan after some good fortune, and these two men hide in the forest. They contact some Christians who are also risking their everything to be in possession of this Christian faith. And, well, what do you think happens? I loved this book. I read a couple of reviews, and maybe that's a mistake on my part, that said this book was quite dry. And I thought, well, perhaps. When I see that something is based in the year 1630, it was such a long time ago, and I have really so little knowledge about what life could have been like at that time that it's hard for me to generate the enthusiasm. But the story of how these two priests, they have to get on a boat, they have nothing, they have no possessions, they have the clothes that they are standing up in, and they have to get to India. And I believe that in India there's just a few sentences where they mention that they had to hang around India for 6 months waiting for the weather to turn to be able to make the journey. 6 months. Okay, I picked this book up on a Thursday, and my initial idea was that I would read 20 pages just to get a taste. This is the first novel by Endo I've ever read, and I read 50 pages in no time. And I said, okay, 50 pages, that's quite good for the first day. Why don't we put it down here and, we can look forward to it tomorrow. And I sat down and I read another 50 pages. The next day, Friday, I read 150 pages. On Saturday, I read the final 50 pages. And there was not one moment where I was not wholly engaged and excited by this story. It was incredible. It's written with such a subtle style, and that's what I love. I love that subtlety. I will tell you one thing about the novel. What happens later is, well, the priest he's caught. they plan to make him give up his faith the way his mentor did as an example. Because to make him a martyr, they realize only encourages the growth of Christianity among the peasants. They can't just make martyrs of these Jesuit priests. They have to go further and cause them to renounce their faith, which is, well, that is the crisis in the second half of the book. What will they do to this man? And will he? The title of the book, Silence. This is the silence of God. It is mentioned several times throughout the novel. God is silent forever. No matter how much you pray, no matter how much you ask for guidance or just a sign, begging, pleading with God, please show me something to let me know that I'm not suffering in vain. But God does not answer. Silence. That is really the struggle, the terrible, terrible dilemma that this priest has to deal with, that he believes if he could just get that iota of proof to help him believe in the face of quite terrible, to put it most lightly, stress. I couldn't believe it when I read that review. This is one of the most exciting books I've read this year. Honestly, it is incredible. So that brings me to, when I finished this book, I asked myself, I love literature. I'm not religious, and I was wondering, for someone who does not perhaps enjoy literature as much as I do, I really do want to read about everything. It's not difficult for me to read about a Jesuit priest going to Japan. I don't see it as something that encourages me religiously, but there is a man who has a quest, and this quest is death-defying. Will he be successful? That's immediately exciting for me. Will there be people out there who read this book and they say, well, that's a little bit too much of the church for my taste? Perhaps there could be, but I didn't feel that in any way. I was reading about a man who was possessed of an idea, and he was willing to sacrifice everything to go through with it. And I don't feel this novel is pushing Christianity. I think this novel is actually asking quite a very painful question. Please, God, I've given you my life. Show me that it hasn't been in vain. Now, this is the first novel that I've read by Shusaku Endo. This book is just so good. I've been trying to get a little information about Endo, but the one thing I would like to say is that after the Second World War, he was one of the first Japanese students to travel and study abroad, if not the very first one. He left Japan and he lived in France. He lived in Lyon for, I believe, 3 or 4 years studying French literature. Somehow that, even though that's not really the highlight of his life, I think this novel and the awards that he won, this young man from Japan living in France in 1950 to 1953, there's just something about that pleases me terribly. So if you are a Christian, I think, of course, this would be a great book to read. If you're not a Christian, I sincerely do not believe it matters with this novel. It is human desire to do something quite worthy, perhaps noble, in the face of adversity. That is always a wonderful novel. The struggle, the despair, the questioning, the hope, all of that makes a truly good novel. And 300 pages, that's a short novel. 3 days, I read it in 3 days. Don't let anyone tell you that it's dry. Don't let anyone tell you that it's boring. I think this is the best book so far of 2022. I'm really happy to recommend this book to you today. What do you think? That would be the question for this week. Does it matter that this book has such a Christian theme? Like, does that turn you off, or am I being foolish? You can read anything, it doesn't matter what. I wouldn't say that it's pro-Christian, because it doesn't seem to be. It actually seems to be conflicted. You can almost feel the author asking, please give me something to know that I'm not, that all of this effort is not wasted on a myth. Or are you like me? You just read anything, and as long as the writing is good, you love it just as much as I do. And yes, there's a Christian theme. Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love reading this book. Take care. Apost. Apost. Apost.